during the session I'll be able to see the comments, right?
Yep, yep. We'll stream it. So, welcome everyone. We are going to see. Okay, 8 people, 9 people. Okay, great. So, welcome everyone for the third part of today's event, which is into data science, AI, and now open source. And we are going to have a lot of discussion about open source, how to get into it, and all sorts of technical questions will be answered by none other than Manaswini. But before I get into the details of the open source event, let me give you a little bit background of the conference. So Mentor Conference is going to be a 15-day long, different career options, different college, different scholarship oriented events where you will get to learn about different topics, different career options, different job types, different companies, and whatnot. So stay tuned for the rest 15 days. Do subscribe to our YouTube because most of the events are going to be live streamed on YouTube, and many of the events will not be live streamed again. So you may not get the second chance at it. And all the event updates are being posted on Discord and Telegram community. So if you have registered it officially on the website, you would have gotten the links. Do join the community so that you would get all the updates in time and you would not miss out any sessions. Regarding the certificates, we'll again float the form after the end of the session regarding the certificates. Do fill up the form and share your feedbacks, and then you will be delivered your certificates. So, yes, now coming back to the event. So, open source software has become increasingly popular. Although many people are not aware of open source, but this is a pretty growing community. And there are open source software programs available which do everything from like an Excel spreadsheet to document to simulations. And the best thing about them that they're always free, and these are the software which are made by passionate developers like you guys. So this event will give you an information about origin of the open source development, why open source has become so popular, and why developers do test it or do build their careers on it, and how can it be used many more. And to tell you all of this, we got a really amazing speaker. So we got Manaswini here. So Manaswini is an avid open source enthusiast who's currently working at Red Hat, one of the very popular MNCs, as an associate software engineer. And she has been a speaker at multiple events like PyCon, DjangoCon, Europe in 2019, and she is one of the major open source contributor. So previously, she has been also a mentor at GirlScript and Google Code. And during her undergrad, she has been interned at multiple top companies like Outreachly and had few publications under her name. So you can definitely take some research tips from her in computer science and wireless networks. So welcome Manaswini for the call to the event, to the session. The stage is all yours, but I would want you to give a very brief introduction, background, where do you come from, so that people can always relate to and we can connect further.
Yeah. Hi, Nikhil. Thanks for the very warm introduction. So, little bit about myself would be I am from Bhubaneswar, and I would say that coming to my experience and my journey, it would seem like a speck of dust in front of the other mentors in this conference. But I'm pretty sure that I'll be able to relate to the people's problems, the people who are looking to venture into open source as a result of this. So yeah, so I didn't. First of all, I would say that I wasn't an engineer by choice because I was kind of equally confused as like many of the students in India are. So I was not sure what to pursue, and but I was pretty sure that I didn't want to do any sort of anything dealing with biology. That was not something that was right up my alley. So I had to kind of stick to mathematics and computer science back in my you can say intermediate exam or plus two exam that we say that here in Odisha. So yeah, that's how it began. And then my father suggested, he is an engineer himself, a metallurgical engineer. So he suggested that engineering is going to give you some time, like to discover what you want to do in life, and at the same time it will be a professional course as well, apart from the regular graduate courses. So I enrolled, and I got somewhat a pretty decent score in JE, and I got admitted to a government college here in Odisha. So yeah, that's when it started, and I was completely like a bookworm, like throughout my school days, throughout my student life. But everything changed when I entered into college. I kind of was religiously attending all the classes, and in that uh, in that period of time, I got connected to a students club that we had in college that was called Zaira. So that's when I met other tech enthusiasts and open source lovers. including seniors, juniors, everybody. So that's when I started taking interest in open source, taking interest in tech, and kind of taking charge of my career, like taking it seriously. And that's when I stopped, like kind of a little bit stopped attending classes and kind of focused there, because uh, coming to the courses, coming to the syllabus, obviously it's helpful. Obviously, we should be learning all of that, all of the theory stuff. But at the same time, it's very important to learn the practicals as well, as to how a server is created, how a language is created or a framework is created, how everything works under the hood. We need to get an idea of that as well. So that's when I got connected to the students of the club, and I started contributing to open source. And yeah, and then I got a chance to intern with open source community called Open Humans Foundation, and then I went on to uh, being a mentor, and completely pursuing a career in open source. That's when I got interested in pursuing a job at Red Hat. So here I am.
Perfect, perfect. So now, guys, to give you a more detailed insight, she has come up with an interesting presentation to guide you about how you can break into open source. So I'll take a back seat and I'll watch her as an audience, just like all of you, and let us give the stage to Manas. Yeah, Manas, the stage is all yours.
Cool. I'm trying to share my screen. Okay. So, can you see my screen?
Yep.
Uh, okay, great. So then I'll start.
Yep, you can probably present it, I think.
Yep.
And the right
Uh,
one, I think. The right
yep.
button, present.
Yeah, sorry. Yep. Everything has changed. Like Google has is changing the projects quite often. The same goes with Google Chat as well. We use
Yeah,
that
I
in our
think
office.
a lot of competition from the open source is coming up. Great, yeah, guys. I'll be at the
Okay, starting off, thanks a lot for tuning in on a Sunday evening. So I'll be walking you through, giving you tips about how to make the most of open source as beginners. So hope this is of some help to you. So let's skip the other stuff, since I've already given a short introduction of where I'm from and what I'm doing currently, and even Nikhil gave a very warm introduction. Thanks for that. So okay, so here is a short question for you. Uh, what is open source? That is, when you hear the term open source, what are the three terms, maybe three terms or maybe two terms that comes to your mind when you hear open source? So it needn't be precise. It needn't be the Wikipedia definition or something of that sort. So feel free to put in your answers in the comments. I'll go and have a look there so that I can come to know whether uh, what's the current thing that you perceive about open source. Okay. Um, freely available. Thanks, Ashi. Uh, any more inputs? Any more ideas? Come on, guys. Break the break your cocoon. And the first thing about open source is that you have to be open. Free. Okay, great. Which is freely available around the globe. Code is open to all, and we can make changes to it. That's great. Open source is like freelancing. Okay, that's a different perspective. Thanks, Amir. Thanks, Vaishnavi. And thanks, Megraj. No money required for using, of course. Open to everyone without paid. Okay, without paid. Full stack development. Um, contribution free and used by everyone. You can modify the code without any libraries. Open access to contribution. Okay, that's great. So yes, most of you guessed correct. That is open source, just as the term suggests. made of two terms. That is, the source is open. That is, the source code is freely available to be modified, and it is redistributed and remodified and made better. So there is a common misconception when it comes to open source, that is, people often confuse it with a social movement, but that's not the case. As said by Richard Stallman, uh, if you don't know who Richard Stallman is, he is the founder of the GNU project. So go and check it out. And he is kind of a free software movement activist as well. So he kind of launched the GNU project back in 1983, and that kind of fueled the open source, the free software movement. So, yep, he said that, and I quote, that is, open source is a development methodology, and free software is a social movement. So, don't get confused. So this is just a very brief history about open source. That is, everything has its own ups and downs, right? That is, at first, computers were developed and adopted, and software was not really looking at, software was not something that was being paid for. Like, suppose someone was buying any hardware, and the software kind of went with the hardware for free. So, and the people who had the software also had the source code of the software, and they were easy to they were open to modify it on their own and use it in their own systems. Not really the open source thing that we see today. And then in 1960s, the universities developed and shared software improvements. Yes, that's where it all started. Like, it started between universities, between sharing knowledge between universities, and then the operating systems came into existence with limited number of modifications to software. And then in 1980s, as said earlier, Richard Stallman launched the GNU project, and the OS's development was led by programmers at a small scale. And then around 1990s, OSS is boosted with the development of Linux, adoption of the internet, and by development of web tools. And then we know what happened after that. There were a lot of companies who open sourced their software that they have been using in the organizations. And then now it is kind of a community that is fueling a lot of open source softwares that is used by people around the globe. So, yep, that was the evolution of open source software. So, as a beginner, if you ask me why open source, I would say that, of course, all of you answered it in the comments right now. That is, of course, it's free and accessible. And the next is, it connects you with like minded people, just like all of you. Some of you may be beginners, some of you may be already into open source, some of you may be professionals, maybe looking to contribute to open source, already professionals but looking to contribute to open source. And that kind of connects the like-minded people. Like, you can meet other people who are in your level of expertise and in your domain, and looking to contribute to open source, or maybe already into open source, and you can learn from each other. The next thing is exercise control over code that you like or don't. Obviously, that is the case, but I wouldn't say that you like or don't. The thing that comes with open source is that you get to learn about a lot of best practices that comes with open source software. That is, since open source software is used by people all around the globe, uh, that means that hundreds and thousands of eyes are actually reviewing that software that you're using. And to make the source code more accessible and more kind of enticing to the new users or the new developers who are looking to contribute to open source, they kind of make it they kind of follow certain practices, like how the folder structure should be, and how the documentation should be written, and all of that sort. So you get to learn about the best practices when it comes to software coding. And the next thing is rapidly changing for the better. As said earlier, it is used by thousands across the globe. So they come with issues and bugs faster. And uh, that's what fuels this, changing for the better movement. Because there may be people across different levels of expertise, right? There may be senior software engineers as well who are looking and contributing to open source. And suppose they come across some bug, suppose they come across some security concerns, they can always raise it and kind of modify it and get it removed. So, yep. And as someone uh, who is not so interested in open source as a beginner, can always put your own projects and build a portfolio, like in GitHub. GitHub is an open source platform, or you can say version control platform, where you can put all your projects, all your code and it kind of acts like a collection of all the softwares that you might have developed. It may be a it may be a very small chat application. It may be just a read me about yourself. That's a thing that was introduced in GitHub, I think very recently, and that is kind of giving an introduction about yourself on the very first page when they look at your profile. So and the next thing is obviously it's fun. I would say that I ventured into open source back in 2017 when I was a sophomore, and I haven't been able to steer clear of it since then. So it's really addictive. And okay, so that's it. But about building a portfolio, I would like to add one more thing, that uh, even it paves the way for recruiters to find your profile. Like suppose you write hundreds of stuff in your resume, right? You have done some internships, you have done some courses, all of that, but where is the code? Where is the stuff where people can understand where you got your hands dirty and all of that? So portfolio, and putting your code publicly on a version control platform helps them know what your expertise is. And at sometimes I have also connected with people who said that they got hired just because of their GitHub profile. So even at times during the interviews, the recruiters ask them to just walk them through some code that they have written, and just to know your understanding about concepts, about best practices in coding, all of that. So that is one of the interviews that is kind of in vogue nowadays among recruiters. So I would say that definitely move forward with building a profile, building a portfolio on a version control platform. And GitHub is the most popular one, that's why I mentioned it. Okay. uh, Another thing that open source paves way for is innovation, obviously, because the most secure and the reliable solutions are open source. You'll slowly come to know of it when I talk about it further. I have a cool meme for it as well. And again, as said earlier, since many people are kind of using the software, they are highly likely to come across issues and bugs that the developers might not have come across in the first view of the project. So, yep, more secure and reliable solutions are open source. And the next thing is no need to reinvent the wheel, that is built on top of the best infrastructure and projects. So, yep, there are a lot of open source projects that can really act as a base project for your project. And you don't need to reinvent the wheel, but you can build on top of it, like develop from not from scratch, but on top of what the project is all what the project is already there. So about that, keep an eye out on license, because that's the way that open source software is protected. I know many of you have questions like, uh, what how is open source protected? That is through license. That's the only intellectual property rights that the software has. That is, before using a project, make sure that you go through the license and read whether it is for commercial purposes or not. If it is not, then don't use it for commercial purposes. And if it is for commercial purposes, that's great. You can always use it, and build it into a product of your own. And the next thing is companies making their project open source for better quality. So the examples are there in front of you. That is Google's Kubernetes and MapReduce. Then there is TensorFlow. Then there is React by Facebook. Then there is GraphQL, Docker, all of that. So another thing that came into uh, that kind of blew up on the internet is, I think in the late 2020s, or I think beginning of 2021, that is the Signal versus WhatsApp thing. So that made me wonder, like, like we have been using WhatsApp since like a long time, right? That's like the go-to platform for anybody. Like whenever they get connected, they're like, what's your WhatsApp number and all of that. So how come people are kind of migrating to Signal, and how come they are so sure that it is more reliable and secure as compared to WhatsApp? So I kind of Googled it, and I found out that it is open source. So I had all my questions answered right there. So there was no doubt about the security concerns of Signal. So yep. That is one of the examples that I can give about open source and the trust that comes with open source software. The next thing is why industry chooses the open source way. That is, open source helps in faster and easier adoption and development, as stated earlier. And then they can now hire people who knows their house in tech. So knows their in-house tech. So about this, I know someone who was my colleague at Red Hat, and he happened to contribute to Quarkus. If you're a Java developer, then you must be aware of Quarkus. It's like the new in vogue thing in the Java industry. So it kind of brought Java at par with the existing popular languages like JavaScript and Python. So yep. So he kind of contributed to Quarkus way before he got hired as an intern. So he kind of contributed to Quarkus. That's when the people came to know about his expertise, and that's when they wanted him on board. And they reached out on their own to him. And after that, he got hired as an intern. And then he was working full time at Red Hat. And then he chose to switch careers, of course. But yeah, that was the story about how he got hired at Red Hat, because the open source platform like GitHub helped people here at Red Hat connect with people who already know their software in and out, since they are already contributing to it. The next thing is open source projects become the de facto standards. That is example for Kubernetes for containers and React library for user interface. So this is the meme I was talking about a bit earlier. Like obviously, I switched to Linux in 2017. That's when I first ventured into open source software. But before that, I know everybody uses Windows at first. So even I started using Windows. And all the time, I used to have this, thing about viruses and antivirus softwares that's there. And I used to worry as to there might be notifications like your antivirus software is kind of expiring. You need to renew that and all of that. So when I switched to Linux, I kind of asked everyone around me, like, what is the antivirus software that we are using here in this platform? And they were like kind of surprised, like, what is antivirus software, like the people who are using Linux. So that's when I came to realize the thing about Linux being more secure and reliable. And talking about Mac OS, that kind of the security concerns are kind of in between Windows and Linux. So when it comes to vulnerability to viruses. Okay. Uh, how is open source changing lives? That is, people, irrespective of their nationalities, their time zones, their level of expertise, are uniting to make software better. Of course, the next thing is no one judges you, but you have to be a bit open about it, because when you first venture into open source, many people, I was one of them. Uh, I used to, ping personally when I had doubts about any bug or any issue I faced. So I used to ping the person individually. I used to ping my mentor individually. But that's when my mentor suggested, like, she came online after 12 hours or something, and I was still stuck in the issue at the time. And she told me that, feel free to put it in the public channel, because there are people across different time zones, and you will get closer to your answer if you put it in the public channel. I know it's very difficult to kind of uh, ask a question in the public channel. Like if you're on Slack, there must be something like #general, or that's usually mentioned in the documentation of the uh, of the open source software. But feel free to post your questions in the public channel. If you're thinking that people will judge you, people will think that you are a noob, nothing of that sort. All the open source communities that I have worked with are very, very open, and they have been very supportive when it comes to answering questions, or pointing me to reliable resources that can help me learn more about the software. And so the next thing is web is more accessible, of course, and then it's everywhere. That is, the top 500 supercomputers run Linux. And if you're not aware of that, the Large Hadron Collider, that is the largest atom smasher in the world, is also running with Linux in control. So, yep. About opportunities in open source, there are already a lot of mentorship programs and fellowship programs, and even other open source programs that are there. There is Outreachy, the one I interned with. So it is like a 3 month open source program where you will be teamed with a mentor, and uh, um, you get to work on the open source software. And you don't need to be a student to apply for this. So again, it's for underrepresented groups. Make sure you match the criteria before you apply for it. And it kind of runs in two cohorts. One, I guess, in February, maybe May to August, and the next is December to February, something of that sort. And the next thing is obviously the most popular one that needs no further introduction, that is Google Summer of Code. and it's another 3 month program where you'll be paired with a mentor. But again, it's just for students and it runs once a year. So and then there is Girl Script Summer of Code. That is, it's like a open source competition. Like there are a lot of open source projects that kind of participate in it, and based on the level of difficulty and the level of issues that you solve, you get assigned points, and at the end someone gets rewards, all of that. And then there is Hacktoberfest. If you're not looking into going into any sort of competition, I think Hacktoberfest is the way to go, because uh, there is no competition. You just have to create 4 pull requests in any of the open source projects, provided that they have that Hacktoberfest tag. That is something that they are looking into, because there were a lot of spam contributions, and I would say that's a shame. That's not really open source contributions, but it's just a way to earn a swag. But that should not be the case. Uh, so yep, this runs in the month of October every year. So feel free to start with it. Even I started with Hacktoberfest. So about all of this programs, then there are other programs as well, like Linux kernel mentorship program. If you're looking forward to contribute to Linux kernel, then that's a way to go. Then there is a mentorship, what's that called? Community Bridge mentorship program. So again, I think Community Bridge is a good platform to look for projects based on languages and or frameworks that you're already familiar with. And again, all of this, many people have this misconception about all of these programs, that you have to be a high-end developer to actually contribute to the projects that are taking part in these programs. But that's not the case. This is just for beginners. So yep. If you are looking forward to venture into open source, then look for programs, and at the same time look for some monetary benefits or some other swags or stuff like that. Then you can always go through these programs. And even if you don't make it, it's completely fine. But again, these programs are there in place so that you can discover open source projects. So yeah, keep that in mind. The next thing is it makes way for new ideas, eventually leading to startups. That is, I have seen many products getting started as a project that was born out of a hackathon. And then there is this opportunity to be a mentor or a maintainer, or take the power of community forward. Obviously, if you are well versed with the project, you can always mentor for any of the programs, or be a maintainer of a program, be a maintainer of a project on your own, and take the power of the community forward. And then there is speak at conferences and events and meet like-minded people. So this is like a giveaway, like uh, a takeaway. That is, I got introduced to the Python software community because of attending events and meetups, and that was my first conference that I ever attended. I think that was in 2018. So yep, and I have been a part of the organizing team since then. So I'm kind of enjoying it. That is, it gives way to kind of connect with other like-minded people, other speakers, or maybe other people who are as enthusiastic as you are related to a particular software, and also learn about new trends in that software, and maybe other use cases of that software that you may not be aware of about. So about that, there is a lot of misconception as well. Like, what if I don't understand what the speaker is speaking? Don't worry about that. That is, everyone started where you started. So just there is a range of you can say range of talks. Some for beginners, some for advanced level developers, some for intermediate level developers. So you don't need to worry about that. So just go there, attend any of the sessions, attend any of the talks. I'm pretty sure if you are curious enough, you'll be kind of noting down the terms that you come across, and then you Google it, and then you come to know more about it. So the more you learn, the more you realize that you have a lot more to learn. So I think attending conferences or meetups in your locality is the way to go as well. And then there is learn best practices in coding. Of course, I've highlighted this. The next thing is, if you're looking for a single contribution economic benefits, then you can go to GitPay. Like, for every issue that you solve, you get paid. So there are other platforms like GitPay as well. You can go there and have a look and maybe get started there. And then there is the very famous bug bounty programs. That is, you might have come across terms like, I kind of found a bug in Facebook or some other, a big big software, and then they kind of pay handsomely for that. So you can also look to venture into bug bounty programs, uh, and get paid, of course. So yep, again, not many companies host this, so feel free to go through the uh, program criteria and eligibility criteria, all of that, before you participate into all of these. If you're into security and quality assurance kind of stuff, then this is the way to go. So if you're looking for open source programs, look no further. I found this list very comprehensive, and I've been following this project very religiously. And it has been set up by Tapashwini Pathak. You can always go there and have a look. It has the timelines as well as to uh, when you can participate and when you have to kind of give your proposal and all of that. So feel free to go check it out. Uh, I think the organizers will share the slides after this, so you don't need to worry. But I think this is a very comprehensive list if you're looking for open source programs. Even it includes all the competitions as well, even country-wise competitions. So this was my reaction. Like, this is the best when I entered into open source, and as I said earlier, I haven't been able to kind of walk away from it. So I kind of believe in this that quote that Linus Torvalds said, and I quote, that is, in real open source, you have the right to control your own destiny. If you don't know who Linus Torvalds is, then he's the kind of the lead developer of Linux kernel. So yes, the one that I showed earlier about in the timeline, that is the one that led to the fueling of open source, and uh, kind of one of the first steps towards enlarging the open source community. So, what can you contribute? The first thing is obviously code. But again, if you have the expertise related to it, or maybe then go for it. But otherwise, it's completely fine if you don't want to code as well. You can get started with just normal typo fixes as well, like maybe some grammatical errors, or maybe just fixing some broken links that may be there in the official documentation. And then there is tests, that is unit testing, integration testing, and all of that. So you can start from there as well. And then we have bug reports. Obviously, many people think that uh, getting issues, like finding issues with the project or stuff like that, is not really a contribution, but that is really a contribution. And if you are already familiar with GitHub, then GitHub kind of records an issue filing as contribution as well. So now you know that issues and bug reports uh, are a contribution as well. The next thing is answering questions on the platform. Maybe the open source community may be on some public channel like Zulip. Again, it's open source. Zulip is open source. And then we have Slack. So answering questions about other people facing the same issue as you might have faced earlier, how to fix it. You can always help with answering questions, help other people who are getting into the project that you have already contributed to. And the next thing is, if there is a not proper documentation, then you can always contribute to the documentation as well. Like, add a section. Suppose you're working on Linux, but the setup instructions are on Windows. So, but you successfully happen to set that up on your Linux system as well. So now you can add a section of the documentation pertaining to setting it up in a Linux system, and then add that section to the documentation. But first, you have to kind of maybe discuss it with the maintainers whether they want the tab to run on Linux or not. And about bug reports, I would say that uh, feel free to ask that to the maintainers and the mentors as well, because sometimes the bugs or the issues that you think are issues are actually features. So that's again another stuff. So, and also, if you are looking to contribute, you can always write blog posts about setting up the particular documentation, or maybe some issue that other people may be able to relate to, and some hacks around certain stuff. You can always create blog posts as well. The next thing is graphics. If you're into designing, like creating logos, creating the you can say the wireframes of the look and feel of an app or a website, things like that, then graphics is also a thing. The next thing is obviously user interface and user experience. Like many people don't know the difference of it, but user interface is just how it looks, but user experience is how it makes you feel as a user. Like whether it makes you feel under control or you feel lost. So if you it makes you feel lost, then it's bad UX. But if it makes you feel under control, like even if you run into an error page or something of that sort, you know how to go out of it and stuff like that. So that's what user experience is all about. The next thing is, and again, these things, like even if an app or a software has a good UI, doesn't mean that it has a good UX. So yeah, they are two different stuff. The next thing is volunteering and marketing in suitable platforms. That is obviously speaking in conferences, meeting people, and kind of setting up meetups on your own. Maybe organizing a meetup on your own, and maybe marketing. If you have an open source project of your own, then market it on Twitter or any other suitable platforms where you can get more developers involved. And obviously there is this GitHub sponsor thing as well. That is, if your project is kind of helping a lot of people, then they can always choose to sponsor you. And yep, I think it's a cool thing as well. That has been introduced very recently in GitHub as well. The next thing is organizing meetups and or conferences. You know it. Okay, uh, let's get to the crux of it. That is, how do you get started? First thing, learn basics about open source platforms, like what is fork, what is clone, what is a repository, and stuff like that. What is a star, and all of that. And about basics, learn Git as well. It's a version control system that you need to learn about. I think every other version control platform uses Git. So uh, get started with learning Git. The next thing is, find your passion. That is, don't just follow the trend. Follow what you're completely passionate about. Like if you're looking to learn, uh, I would say that don't just learn a language. Kind of first decide on what you want to create. Okay, so that will help you pinpoint to what languages or frameworks will be able to get you closer to what you want to, what you want to make. So yeah, find your passion, find the project that you want to develop, and then choose the other frameworks or other languages that may help you get closer to it, and then learn it, of course. And if that language is open source, you might have great tutorials as well. uh, on that. And again, if you're looking to just find a project, then find a project that is associated with your passion. Like if you're interested in CLI, like how the different stuff, like how Git works under the hood, how the commands are, what does upstream mean, what is, if you type upstream, like Git pull upstream master or things like that on your CLI, how is it working under the hood? Then you can always contribute to Git CLI and things like that. So yeah, find a project that's associated with your passion and what you want to contribute to. And even if that issue that you're looking to solve is already solved, you can always go there and have a look at how it works under the hood. I think that's a cool thing to discover as well as beginners. And the next is, talk to volunteers and project maintainers. That is, many people don't do it because they are shy. Like talk to them and know about the project's vision, like where they're heading to, what's the next thing, when is the next version rollout, and what is the goal for the version rollout and all of that. And the next thing is, find newcomer friendly issues. There are tags like good first issue, low hanging fruit, first timers, things like that. So find those labels in the issues. I'll be demonstrating that a bit after this. So yep, find those newcomer friendly issues, because other issues may be overwhelming for you as a newcomer. So find the newcomer friendly issues, and then in due course of time, when you're contributing and getting your contributions merged, then you'll be able to integrate into the community as well. And obviously pass it on, like talk about the open source software. If you think that's helpful, then talk about it to other people, and you know get it tracking. Okay, so this is the crux of it. If you're looking for language wise open source projects, I can open this. Let me see. Let me just check whether you're able to. Okay, so you can go here. kind of taking some time to load, but it is a good place to start. I mean, if you're only looking for JavaScript projects or Java projects, or maybe Go, Dart, Clojure, any of these languages that you might be interested in, you can always go here. Suppose you're interested in the JavaScript project and you know a bit about JavaScript, then it is kind of easier to get started. But that's why I highlighted the point, find your passion. Because if you find your passion, if you find the language that's associated with your passion, then you'll be able to learn the language fast and kind of look for projects that's associated with the language that you have already learned. Suppose I go for JavaScript, and we can just go to any of these. I would say that I've used Leaflet once, so let me go there. So how to get started is, first of all, sign up, obviously. Sign up on this platform. Go to, I wouldn't say first look for issues. You can always look for issues if you're kind of uh, already aware of it, already aware of what issues are and stuff like that. So this is the issues tab, like the you can say the bug reports, and then these are the contributions, like the pull request. That's what contributions are known as. That is, people have solved the issues here. Okay, so you can go here and always check stuff like good first issue or stuff like that. See, good first issue. If you click on this, then you can always get the, and you can always know about these help wanted stuff. The help wanted issues are the ones that where help is needed, as the term suggests. You can go here and browse the issues, and again, I told, uh, find the newcomer friendly issues first, and instead of directly jumping into stuff that you might find overwhelming. So I would say, first, don't go into the issues tab. You can easily go to the code tab and kind of read the whole stuff, that what the project does and whether it's something that you would be willing to contribute to and stuff like that. Then if that interests you, always go to the official website, learn about the docs, tutorials, and how to use that in the first place. If you haven't used it yet, I've used Leaflet, so I'll directly go to the contributing guide. So all of the famous open source projects, or the ones that are actively looking for contributors, have this uh, contributing guide. So if they don't, please suggest them to add one, so that uh, the more I would say about writing good contribution guides, that's the more self reliant the documentation is, the better it is for the newbies to get started. You can go here, the contributing guide, you can read it, set the system up in your local system, and see whether you run into issues in the process. And if you run into issues, then feel free to reach out to in the public channel, as said earlier. Uh, Getting involved, code of conduct, contributing, all of that. So here is the total guide as to how to get set this stuff up in your system. Yep. And if you're looking to contribute, always fork it. So what will fork do is, it is kind of creating a copy in your account, copy of this whole software in your account, that will help you create contributions. That is, since you're not the owner of this project right here, you won't be directly able to contribute to it. So if you fork it and then create a contribution, there is a lot of guide available, lot of tutorials and guides available on creating a pull request. So feel free to go through that. I didn't link it here because I wanted you to have some idea about what pull request is and all of that. Get acquainted with the glossary stuff first. So yep, you can easily first clone it, like fork it, and then clone the fork in your system, and then and if you have already forked it, then you might be seeing something like this, like except for this leaflet stuff, you'll have your name, have your GitHub username. If you're looking to clone it, just copy it and kind of paste it in your terminal with git clone prefix. Yep, that's how you'll be able to do it. And then obviously play around the code and see whether what change in what file is leading to what change in the software, or whether it's breaking the software or not. So again, why I wanted you to learn the language first is that will help you get acquainted with the folder structure of the repository. Like suppose if you are looking to contribute in React, then you must be aware of the folder structure, like what is src folder, what is package.json, and what is TypeScript, what is Redux, maybe stuff like that. That will help you gain some background knowledge about common React projects that you may find in this open source platform. So yep, that's how you get started. Like, I would say that read the documentation that's provided, the contributing guide, maybe docs and tutorials thoroughly, and try to find answers on your own first before reaching out to the other developers or other open source maintainers. And that's how you get cracking. Like, first try and find out the issues on your own, because that will help you feed your curiosity as well, and that will help you learn better as well. If you're looking, if this is too overwhelming, then you can always check this 6 beginner open source projects from opensource.com. I would say that if you're looking for blogs on open source, then opensource.com is a great platform, and you can always find blogs about Git, blogs about famous CLI tools, uh, and stuff like that. Everything open source basically. And if you're looking to get familiar with the glossary that I stuff, like repository, origin, upstream, uh, for, clone, and stuff like that, branches, then feel free to have a look at this guide from Free Code Camp. And then there is another cool stuff that I found today. So this is really cool. It's taking some time to load. Yep. So this is like a cool stuff. Like, click any of these projects and you'll be having some project that you can look into. So again, this is featured in Google Open Source. I'm pretty sure these projects will have awesome documentation that can help you get started with right away. So yep, these are some of the resources for you to get started. Okay, back to this. So this is just for some motivation for you. Thanks a lot for lending your ears. You can feel free to reach out to me if you have any outstanding questions, but I'm here for the next 15 minutes or so to take your questions. I hope this didn't take much of your time, and I hope that this was of some help to you.
Hi there. So thank you. I guess this was very insightful and very engaging as the presentation is concerned. So I'm seeing quite a number of users where understanding open source in a very different way. So I'm sure they would have had a very different perspective and more respect for the open source. Frankly, I believe the open source community deserve more respect and a lot of support, because that's a way for a lot of innovation which can be shared. Okay, so we have first question coming in from Aniket. I'll just stream the question. So, how open source is helpful in data science?
Uh, about that, I've seen many people putting forth their algorithms regarding training their software and testing their software and stuff like that. So again, this gives you an insight about what algorithm is better, and obviously helps you create an algorithm of your own, and kind of, instead of reinventing the whole wheel, like starting something from scratch, you can always start from an existing algorithm that someone in your acquaintance has developed, and you can always bring forth a better way in which that problem can be solved, be it OCR, like optical character recognition, or maybe face recognition. That is kind of very popular nowadays. I can see it all over LinkedIn. So yep. So data science, you can say open source is helping in data science as well. Like, it is helping all the platforms, like each and every aspect of the software industry. So this will help you come up with better algorithms, and you can always access the existing algorithms and build on top of the existing algorithms to build a better algorithm and stuff like that.
Exactly. I think many of the people kind of confuse with open source, as like a free stuff only. So open source also have certain monetary incentives that you can always give or contribute to the community so that they can run. Again, nothing is free in this world, right? So you need to contribute, you need to support the open source community, and as I said, there is a lot of growth in this particular space. So we have next question coming in. Sorry. Yep. How to get in touch or notified about open source programs?
Um, okay. So I have shared a link. I'll share it in the chat again. That is, you know, I'm not sure whether there is, if you can build one with some APIs or stuff like that. You can build an API, and that will kind of ping when the timeline comes and stuff like that, based on the announcements. But that might require some kind of data mining as well. So I'm not sure about it, but very good idea to get started with. I'm not sure of any existing platform that notifies you about open source programs, but if you find it, feel free to share it with everyone and make full use of it. So I would say that there is this link that is shared in the slide, that was a list curated by Tapashwini Pathak. I think that is a very comprehensive list, and I've been following that list, and it's getting like the list is increasing day by day. So I think it's a good place to start if you're looking for open source programs, along with the timelines and the eligibility criteria as well.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I think one interesting project for all of the viewers who are there is probably build something like that on an open source, like how to get notified about any live open source platform. Something like a product hunt or beta X would be a really good, but only and exclusively for open source. So all of you guys can go watch or probably like use the products. So one interesting question has been asked by Keshav, is it safe to use open source software?
Yes, it is, because first of all, it has the trust of millions of people who are using it, and the next thing is about it getting better every time. And the next thing is, if you're looking for safety, then I think that that is where intellectual property rights come into place, right? The license stuff come into place. Whether if you've already developed a software and you haven't given any license, then everyone can kind of clone it and kind of use it for different stuff as well, for bad stuff as well, everything. But if you have put forth a license in place as to where that software can be used, whether it can be used for commercial purposes or not, and stuff like that, if you have laid the standards, laid the license, then I don't think that it is any problem to use open source software. But make sure that even if you're using other open source software, make sure that you read through the entire license before using it for commercial, or maybe just maybe reuse stuff or stuff like that. So yep, feel free to go through the
Absolutely.
license and also lay down the license for your open source projects.
Perfect. So this is a very starter question. Vaishnavi is a little bit confused and she likes programming language but don't know how to go further. And she wants to build a career in ethical hacking, AI, drone, robotics. So what are the ways to start off? Any basic uh, ideology that you have?
Okay, so about that, I think about bug bounty programs that I mentioned earlier. It has to do something with ethical hacking. That is, coming up with security issues, coming up with uh, leaks in the API, maybe some stuff that you shouldn't be seeing if you're not authenticated or authorized, maybe stuff like that. If you're kind of bringing that to the notice of the companies as well, that is kind of counted towards finding bugs, and that can be counted uh, towards bug bounty programs as well. I would say that a good place to start is learning the basics. Again, if you're looking into learning AI, then learn about data science, about training, testing, about the existing languages that are helping in AI, like maybe learn Python, maybe learn R programming, whatever suits you. And about drones, robotics, I think there are a lot of open source projects available as well. Not able to exactly name the projects, but a lot of open source I would say robotic software is kind of they participate in open source programs like Google Summer of Code as well. So even I saw one of my friends participating in one of the robotics softwares that he used to use. So that's a good way to start as well if you're looking into that. And about drones and robotics, I kind of that kind of comes in one thing. It's kind of drones are a part of the robotics stuff. So yep, feel free to learn the basics first and kind of step further, because that is going to lay the foundation of everything that you're going to come across in your future in that particular field.
Absolutely. Okay, so is it secured for any research work if any research is going on in open source? because open source would definitely lead to, a lot of people have this thing that you will not be able to file patents if you are doing work in open source.
Um, Not really the case. I would say I have seen again, reiterating what I said earlier. That is, open source started in universities as well, like in universities only, in educational institutes, and that's when people started initially sharing their research work in internal networks about any research work that they came across. That kind of paved the way for open source software that we are looking now. So it is secure to use it, but uh, if you're not too confident about it, then you can always create a private repository, right? Like that is only visible to you and some other collaborators or maybe other contributors that you might want to share it with. So if you're not very confident the about sharing your work, then feel free to create a private repository. And GitHub has kind of made it unlimited, because before it was just a limited number. Like people were used to just create 30 private projects or 30 private repositories or stuff like that. But that is kind of extended to unlimited. So yeah, if you're not confident about it, always feel free to create a private repository, and just for your convenience, and just to make yourself feel more comfortable.
Absolutely. Okay, so I think so. Yeah, guys, the presentation I will probably get some insights from Anaswini, and we'll share it across over an email, all the insights or probably some notes around this presentation. So do not worry about the details and notes, but do pay attention once the presentation is shared, because that's where you'll start your research and start going ahead. Okay, so we have one question. Okay. So I think most of the questions are being answered, and they're pretty similar questions. So we're going to end the session. Thank you, Manaswini. Thank you, everyone who have attended the session. And it was great to have you, Manaswini, here at the session, and a lot of things I believe people would have at least gotten a basic idea about to start off in open source. And we all hope that at least 60, 70 people who have attended the sessions consistently, you guys go back to your system and check out what open source is, and probably start building your profile in that if you are really planning to get in. Thank you again, all the audience. Thank you, Manaswini, for joining us at the session.
Yep, thank you. Enjoy the rest of the conference, everyone. And if you don't know, if you're willing to Google something, then always go for the Wikipedia page. I think it has very cool links. And if you don't know, then Wikipedia is also open source. Like it is kind of powered by the Wikimedia Foundation community. So, yep, that's a good place to start and as well. If you're just willing to learn about the terms and the history and stuff like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks again, guys. We'll see you tomorrow. Okay, so now we have small announcements to make. I believe a lot of people are confused where to find the next event registration link or any joining link. Do not worry. The only step that you need to do is join the Telegram or Discord community. We are going to share all the event links out there by today, probably like by midnight or just a little bit late night. We'll roll out all the event details along with the joining link. It could be YouTube, it could be Zoom link. I'll not promise anything right now, but then all the events separate links will be shared to you. You need to do is go to YouTube, subscribe us, put the bell icon so that you don't miss any of the events which is going to get live. Okay, and we will also share a PDF. It has already been shared on the Telegram and on the Discord community. Do download that PDF. It is an event booklet. You would get all the event dates, times, speaker details, personal bio of the speaker, so that you get a clarity and you mark your calendar for that. And on the same time, you can always go to YouTube or Facebook or LinkedIn page of foreign admits, and you can always attend the event live. There are a few events like University Fair, GRE Workshop, and TOEFL Workshop. So all those events would be happening, in a closed setup. So there would be a very limited seats, honestly, and I'm really sorry for that. We might increase the seats from 500 to 1,000. I'm not gonna commit on anything, but then it's going to be only for study abroad aspirants. So if you are planning seriously to study abroad or to get test guidance like GRE or TOEFL, you should attend those events. That is going to be a couple of days after this today's event. Tomorrow, again, we have some interesting events on cracking the code. We have web development, software engineering, and other areas experts coming in. So, if you're planning to get into website development or software engineering or DevOps kind of areas, you should tune in tomorrow. Tomorrow, we also have Goovy's founder and certain other guys from the FANG company for cloud computing also joining in to train you about cloud computing. So I hope you all of you guys are enjoying the conference, and if you like the event, do share it across on social media. Do tag foreign admits, and it would mean a lot. Regarding the certificates, I am seeing a lot of people have asked for the certificate. It is the same link for the certificate. We'll probably share it again on the community, and do just submit the form on the do just submit the form, and probably after 26 we'll be issuing all the certificates, because there are so many events. To issue separate certificates for each of the event would take a lot of time. So again, do not be certificate focused, but be learning focused. Spend a lot of time what you're learning here, and try and get back and try to scribble notes and try and practice all of those things. So thank you once again. See you tomorrow. Tomorrow, I think if you go to our LinkedIn, I can probably tell you the exact time when we are going to be live, and we'll be going to be live on YouTube again. So if I have to tell you exactly what's the time, then we are going to be live. Just give me a second. I'll just check it. Tomorrow we are going to be live from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. It's going to be a 3 hours marathon on cracking the code. So do not miss it. It's going to be entire boot camp on I think React framework. So all of you guys who are planning to get into software development and website development, you should be able to join that event. And we have already shared the the certificate URL. This is the URL. You can find it in the chat section, and this will help you out to get your certificate secure. So thank you guys. Thank you everyone for joining the event, joining the session. See you tomorrow 4 p.m. Bye bye.